Good morning, Ichigo, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Griever, your guys' host, as always. Bringing you guys Bleach, Episode 8 review. Now, I got some things to talk about. I got so much here to talk about. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to go, but there are points that I need to make because I keep missing points by not taking a screenshot. So this time, I've laid them out in front of me here, so if my eyes start down, I apologize, not focusing between you and me making eye contact sort of deal. But I had to take screenshots for this one, because I knew I would have forgotten this right off the bat. Grand Fisher is talking to Vastolores? Is that the deal here? Because last time I checked, barring a wrong car, I suppose you could, whatever the second stage is, technically could have human form, but, the wrong cars don't technically, naturally, they're 1 in a million, right? They're 1 in a billion. So, because that's what Stark is apparently. He's a natural Arrancar. Or is that Ukiura? Anyways. Point is that in this episode, and there'll be shots here to show you guys, we see Grand Fisher not necessarily taking orders, but we see humanoid hollows coming out of Waco Mundo and silently communicating, and then Grand Fisher says, "I will go." And that's it. But this implies that there's humanoid, hollows. Now, but they do not match a single design of any character that I know of. So I'm just curious. And last time I checked, the humanoid ones are generally, because you have the Menos Grande, and then you have what's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. My Spanish. You'd think, being married to a Latina, I would know this, but. The second stage, where Grimmjow was an actual jaguar. The AJ something, the Ajusu, whatever they're called. They're more animalistic in nature, still not human form. Human form comes from being either a Vastolore or an Arrancar. And I'm just curious here, who are these people? Like, what's going on here? See, this is where anime and manga kind of differed in a sense. This is back before, once again, OVAs, which is what anime today is. There is no difference. There isn't OVAs in anime. There's anime, and that's it. Because there's no need for an OVA, because everybody's going straight panel to panel manga. And then they may just make a filler arc. They don't add things like this anymore in anime. So, but here I have questions. It's not a problem. I just have questions. What's this meeting of these clearly high-level hollows? And what does it pertain to? I'm just curious, because we know what happens to Grand Fisher later on. So are these Vastolores? Are we seeing silhouettes of certain Arrancar before they became necessarily a Spada? Are we seeing them are we seeing the Vastolores before they became a Arrancar? Because, of course, their form would change based on the Hogyoku. So, I'm just curious about all this. Who are these people here? Who do you think they are? Let me know in the comment section down below. So, the next part is we are following, of course, the character from the end, and I don't remember his name, but the character at the end of the last episode being the Shinigami, the Soul Reaper, who is there tasked to find out what's going on with Rukia in the Soul Society. He's here, and it's, it gets a little touchy, alright, he's a bit of a clown, but he's also giving us some information about the crimes and such. This is handled a little differently in the manga, but we get the same gist from it, right? Rukia giving her powers to a human is a crime. Why is it a crime? It's kind of explained, it's kind of not. Depends on how deep you want to read into the Wikipedia of Bleach. But, yeah, so it's a crime to do what she did. It probably could have been forgotten about had she taken all her powers back and left, Ichigo alone and done a Men in Black thing to him. Probably would have been a slap on the wrist and a little bit of jail time. But at this point, where she hasn't been able to do that, it's become a bigger problem. Of course, this is the date of Ichigo's mother's death. This is it's June 17th. I think it was June? Yeah, June 17th. And that's the day his mother died. And it was quite a few years ago now. But we have Rukia showing up when the whole family's going there and tries to tell him, it could have been a hollow, like you were a high level. And I brought this up, I believe it was in the first episode or the second episode review. I brought it up. So wait a minute now. He's been a high spiritual level for a long time. Hollows are attacking him now all of a sudden when he's 17 or 15. Sorry, he's 15. Attacking him at 15, but they never attacked him before these 15 years. In fact, they did. They tried to take his life during this whole encounter with Misaki, his mother, and everything, and that's how Misaki lost her life. Now, the issue here lies in the fact that ever since then, hasn't been much in the way of hollow attacks either. So, still a bit of an issue there. But nonetheless, that's the explanation. And Rukia tries to say that maybe that's the case. Maybe it was a hollow. You said she was killed. And she feels regret about this afterwards. She realized how insensitive she has been to Ichigo's feelings and how he must feel, especially not talking about this necessarily in December, but in June. Not only in June, but on the day when he's going to his mother's grave, talking about this when he feels so much regret that he had to go home and tell his sisters, I killed Mom because I made a stupid decision. Mom told me no, and I went and did it, and it was just a ghost. We find out later what that ghost is, but he thinks that he tried to save a ghost and that wasn't worth the time, blah, blah, blah. It's actually a miracle the way Ichigo did turn out. He's still helping people. He's still a caring individual. He might be rough around the edges, but he's not an uncaring individual. He didn't shut himself in. He didn't become some evil person based on this. It'd be a little understandable that he'd be a loner, but he could have become a shut-in and hate the world and hate ghosts and want to destroy all ghosts, similar to what a Quincy does. That could be the case. He could have easily made himself into a hollow himself in that regard, if he were a ghost himself. But he turns it around, and that's good. There's so much to talk about in this episode, because Tatsuki, for example, let's jump ahead a little bit here. Tatsuki is the one recounting the build-up and the lead-up to this whole backstory of Ichigo, and how Ichigo was a happy crybaby of a kid. Happiest kid you could have wanted. There's just the happiest, the Kevin McAllister kid. Always smiling the moment, Mom came home on Christmas sort of idea. Home Alone endings was Ichigo every single time his mom was around, right? And unfortunately, of course, everything happened. But Tatsuki is actually, I feel like Tatsuki deserves more of a placement than Orihime or Chad and such, definitely considering the way that their characters went throughout the series. Tatsuki was already strong, and she already had a bit of spiritual presence. She had a bit of spiritual affinity, and she was always rather close to Ichigo in a nakama sort of way. And I feel like that really could have been developed far more in this series. It was kind of pushed to the side, unfortunately. In all series, in almost every shonen series, human characters are always pushed to the side. Human characters, eventually, the moment you introduce a different race, human characters are pushed to the side. Happens in almost every manga I can think of. Or the child of prophecy is always just going to be the best, right? That, you never just have, let's introduce a few races and humans are the best. Never happens. And if it does, it becomes a little bit odd. But either way, Tatsuki, who honestly is one of my favorite characters in the early stages of Bleach, I really enjoyed her character, and I thought that she deserved much more spotlight, a lot more limelight, because she was the character that I took to more she is the one closest to Ichigo because she knows the story, and the way, even in the English dub with the soundtrack and the story and everything, it's handled really well. Tatsuki's really broken up about this. She knows Ichigo's secrets. She knows what he used to be like. She does not attack Ichigo. She does not try to pull him down or try to fix anything. She's Ichigo's oldest friend in this regard. She is Ichigo's oldest friend in this whole series, and still he wants to be a bit of a loner. I'm going to give him space. She's actually being a great friend in that regard, knowing what happened and everything, and just like, she cares about Ichigo so much. I don't think it's necessarily on a romantic level. You could read that into it if you like. It'd be very tropey, and it would be fine if that were the case. But I just like to think that she was just a really good friend and really deeply cared about her friend and hated seeing Ichigo this way. And so when Orihime brings her over and she talks about it, you see Tatsuki is like trying to hold back. Like, she is very emotional about this. She does not like to retell this story because she knows that the happy Ichigo that she knew growing up, the only one out of everyone currently in their middle school, is that Ichigo's gone. And nothing's going to bring that Ichigo back. And even when he's happy and stuff on the day before, Tatsuki's like, I know why he's acting that way. You know, just kind of like, and it's handled so well. Like, there's a lot of tragic backstories in manga. It's the way that authors used to build characters. Characters all have tragic backstories. Every shonen protagonist needs to have somebody die. Everybody needs a Batman origin story. Everybody needs to be Robin with parents dying in an accident, or Batman with mugger killed his parents. You need the superhero element in manga. It's almost it is a trope. It's a trope in shonen. But this one is laid out and handled really well because he still has a support group. It's not like he was alone after this. He still had his dad. He still had his sisters. He still had his classmates. Tatsuki was still there. His mom died. He blames himself. This is an internal struggle that he deals with for a very long time, and he hates himself for it. It's an internal thing, but he's grown above it to be able to smile on the outside, but he still feels all that weight and all that regret throughout his whole life. It's a much more compelling, it's less cookie cutter. There are levels and tiers of depth to this way of writing a shonen protagonist backstory, rather than just saying, parents died and I hated all evil after that. You know, like, when you break it down, you don't want it to be 9-year-old cartoon. Even though these are shonen, you can still bring a level of depth, similar to some of the One Piece elements of One Piece character backstories, especially the Straw Hats, which have multiple levels of depth brought to them. This is another example of that. And I feel like this episode really hit me home, especially Tatsuki talking about it. I feel like the English dub did it really good justice. It was really well handled. We get the entire thing with Misaki and stuff, and we find out the whole backstory. So, after this, of course, we jump to the confrontation between the Soul Reaper, who's there to investigate Rukia. Ichigo shows up, bit of a confrontation, but Graham Fisher has shown up at the end of the episode, so episode 9 is looming and ready for us. So, this is probably one of my longest episode reviews, but I felt like I really needed to bring up the whole, who is Graham Fisher talking to? Who are these hollows that seem to be high level, if not Vasto Lorde level, or Ronkars in that regard, where they have a humanoid form? And, of course, talking about Ichigo, the main character and his backstory. And do I feel like it was good? I honestly think it's one of the best. I think it's very less cookie cutter, and you can dig deeper. Because this is not a character... It's so easy for a character to be... Here, personality type A. Well, why is he personality type A? Oh, well, his parents died. Oh, well, his mom died. Oh, well, his best friend died. Oh, well, you know, and it's easy. It's like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4. But Ichigo changed that kind of dynamic. He changed that element because you wouldn't expect Ichigo to be the way he is now at 15 with his mom dying. He had a distinct personality change, but we didn't expect that. We saw Ichigo as he was from episode 1, and you never would have added up, well, why is he the way he is? Well, because his mother died. His attitude doesn't tell me that his mother died and he feels regret and all the things that go on with his mother's death. It was an interesting dynamic. Ichigo's character rose above that stereotype, so to speak. And I just feel it deserves the credit for doing that. It could have easily been cookie cutter, but it went a step beyond. And I really enjoy it. It's one of the reasons I love Bleach. I love the in-depth, the controversy, and the tiered layers of ingenuity and intrigue that it brings. So, thanks guys so much for watching. This has been episode 8, I believe, of Bleach. Probably one of my more longer reviews. Next review, I'm sure, will be a little bit shorter. We're stepping on to episode 9. Like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Griever. See you next time.